two special guests. I got a 2-for-1 deal here, but this is something that's really close to my heart and even a lot of my people in my program and then in my communities. I'm having these conversations with parents who are entrepreneurs and they want to know what are their options now that they have that flexibility and they're building their business for education for their children. And so today I've got two very special guests, Christina and Herb, that after 32 years of marriage, raising two boys of their own, they do have a child on the spectrum. So we have connected over that, of course. But they have started Vibrant Family Education. They have a podcast. We're going to learn all about all of it today. But they used combined life experience and Christina's passion for education, Herb's knowledge in entrepreneurship to help guide parents on this journey with their child's education. And so I asked them to be guests today on the show so that we can talk a little bit and have that conversation about what your options are as a parent. They've got 3 myths that they're going to share with us. So I'm really excited about those. But we know, and we talk a lot about on this show, if your house isn't in order, it's really hard to get your business in order. And most of the time, our why behind our business is our children, is our family. And we want that flexibility, we want that option of education, what's best for our family, what's best for our time. But we're overwhelmed by the options. So, with that being said, I'm really excited to have Vibrant Family Education on the show today. Thank you guys so much for being with me. And hopefully we can get some clarity for these entrepreneurs on, what their options are and what fits best for them. So welcome.
Thank you so very, very much. We are excited to be here because this is what we love talking about. We love that connection between entrepreneurship and homeschooling, education for families, and really hopefully bringing families closer together instead of what sometimes happens with entrepreneurship. Sometimes we get so into it that we actually kind of lose our families because we're so busy building the business, saying, oh, I'm going to do it for my family. And then we wake up and it's like, oh, wait, our family has drifted apart. So we really talk about that connection as well. So thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us here. This everything you've said just gets me so excited. I'm gonna have trouble like slowing down because you're tripping all of my favorite buttons to talk about around homeschooling. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So let's dive in a little bit into the background because I know, Christina, you have a background in education, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your experience with that. And then, of course, how that led you into wanting to partner with her to do this. Like, how did you leave traditional education? Did you leave traditional education? What did that experience look like for you?
Thank you so much for that question because that is also very important to this journey, right? Because some people like, oh, wait, she's a traditional educator. She has 27 years in a classroom. How in the world couldn't she understand homeschooling? But it was because of that background and where I went after I left teaching that has created this space where I can really help and guide families. So 27 years in the actual classroom. The last 2 of my years, I was in the online education space through my school district. So I was in a certified program that helped families homeschool do online education through there. And whenever I hit those 2 years, I suddenly realized that I wasn't the impact that I wanted in the classroom as much anymore, but I was also spending as much time teaching as I was coaching and mentoring. Because of course, when you're doing an online program, the parents have to step up and do a little bit more, et cetera, which is why online education sometimes is a great option for parents and sometimes it's not. But for me, when I realized that, oh my gosh, not only am I teaching as much as I am coaching, mentoring, I want to take this outside of the classroom now because the classroom wasn't fulfilling my needs, even though I was doing my best to meet my kids' needs, the students' needs. But now I can do it outside of the school district. And that's how that whole transition happened. And then, of course, I dove into understanding homeschooling a little bit more. I saw a lot the 2 years I was teaching there. And since then, I've helped several families take their kids out of public school because it wasn't a good fit and start homeschooling and have the support they need. Because like you said, they're kind of unconfident. They're kind of wobbly about, oh, can I really do this?
Yeah, I love that. And I've shared a little bit on the show before, so a lot of my listeners know this, but obviously my son, Caden, on the spectrum has an IEP. We have a BIP. We've got all the accommodations that the federal law allows. But we also know still that doesn't mean the child can thrive there. And so I've shared this a lot, not that my school district's not doing everything that they can, but there's a lot of red tape for them too, right? There's a lot of red tape, there's budgets, there's all these different things. And sometimes it feels like there's more planning than executing. And that's not, again, at the teachers, that's not at the district, that's at, they have to document everything. Well, if we got to spend 25 hours a week documenting, how many hours a week do we actually have to implement with the kids? And so there's so many frustrations on that end as a parent. And I am well versed in IDEA law. So if anybody's listening and needs some help, I'm sure Christine and I can both help you with that. But I love that you shared the aspect of you spent more time mentoring, because my kids are still in traditional school right now with accommodations, of course. We've tossed around the idea of all of our options, online school or homeschool traditionally. And of course, I've got one kid that I think would thrive in homeschool setting and one that might not. And so I know I definitely want to get into that today too, about what to do if you have different kids that would thrive in different situations. But I love that you shared the mentoring piece. I just want to bring that home, because even though my kids are in traditional school, somebody needs to mentor me on Common Core math, because this homework is not it. Like I am like, okay, I can give you the answer to the problem, but it's not going to get there.
I have to jump in. She was a teacher for 27 years. I was a teacher's husband for 27 years. Okay. I graded probably, if not as much, almost as much as she did. I did the math. And I did, and just boom. And then one time she's like, oh, do the math. And I'm sitting there. I couldn't figure out second grade math. And it's like, this makes no sense to me, because I'm highly intelligent. I don't know how I do math. You can ask me math questions and the numbers just pop out. It's like, do you know if you're right? It's like, I have no idea. And then we do it. So it doesn't always work. So
no. And we're going to get into all of this today, because that's another thing that I've talked about with my daughter before. My daughter can arrive to mental math, and sometimes she can mentally do it, but maybe not show the work the way the paper says. And so we're going to spotlight why that is a big reason, or a factor, and why maybe educational choice is a big option for us. Because I know, as a neurodivergent child, I was a quick learner. I was actually done with my work faster than anyone. The answers were almost always right. I never forget my mom sending I was getting in trouble. I was getting disciplinary action on me because I would get done so fast. I would talk and I was distracting the other kids. I get that now, but my mom sending coloring books to school with me in my backpack to try to keep me busy. And eventually got tested for gifted, and they allowed me to go in another class, all the things, but a lot of that's not available the same way it used to be. So
no, gifted is gone.
Yeah. So Herb, tell me a little bit about your experience, because I mean, you've got experience in entrepreneurship, but when Christina came to you, or you came to her, however this came together after those 2 years, what was your thought on this?
Oh, this could go on for a long time.
It's all his fault.
So again, we met in 1989 and we became inseparable. So we've been together for 36 years, married for 34. We've been through it all, and thank God when she said for better or for worse that she meant it. We both did, because we both had our times, but my last one was really bad. So I worked in corporate America. I was always trying to build my own businesses. I exited a lot of them successfully, but beat up. And it's like, okay, I got my money back. Let's get the heck out of this. And then I found one that worked for me, and I was building it, and I had too many snowboarding hits, and the last one was really bad, and I hurt my body at the same time. So I was getting my body fixed, but I started yelling at the people that was working for me. I was not able to do things that I could do. It's like, I can do this, and then I would sit down and I couldn't do it. And I thought I was going crazy, and I shut my life down, and I spent thousands of dollars on my health. Turn it all around, and still it just got worse and darker and crazier. And
I was teaching full time at the time,
so life got really, really dark, and we lost everything except for each other, pretty much. And in this time, it's like I reached out to my youngest son, and we hadn't been communicated, and things got really, really bad, and I can't see my granddaughter anymore, and he doesn't talk to me. And so coming out of this is when I found out that I had a lot of brain damage. And then I started doing brain damage recovery stuff. And that started helping me recover. And through this process, strangely, I ended up in a business meeting in Montana. We live in Oregon. And I helped a friend of ours move to Montana. And she said, okay, when we get there as a thank you, my girlfriend's boyfriend is doing this thing. And I want you to come along. And it's about learning how to do an elevator pitch. And I had just started kind of coaching because I mean, I was in the muck. My life was over. It was bad. So as I was clawing out, I was like, I can help people at least see the light, and now I can help people get started. So I have my own coaching business around that. And as I was coming out again, I ended up in this business meeting, and I walk in and I look at the guy and I was like, oh man, I'm in the wrong room. I'm hurt. I'm done. I'm not having this. And it was a 3-day retreat. And for the 3 days, I'm sitting there in the room with my friend and I'm helping her. And I'm not really participating in the exercises. They're doing breathing. They're doing meditation. They're doing writing exercises. Speeches. And I have been in self-development. I've been in personal development. I've been in business development for 20 years. And I hurt myself and it all fell apart. And now I'm sitting here and calm. Woo.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Role playing.
After 3 days, well, the first day I did some energy work on a guy, and the guy that was running the place blew his mind, and he's like, okay, I need to talk to you. And the third day, after all of these things, the last part was they were videoing this opening speech because it was how to sell from stages. Great class. And I understood all of it. So I didn't participate. I was helping my friend, and he went like, okay, here's your turn. Hey, Herb, are you going to do this? And I'm like, you know what? I am. Because just before that, I was sitting in the audience, and there was a prayer going on, and I opened myself up and I cracked myself up and I got really vulnerable. And I heard somebody say, tell them about the school that we've been talking about for 27 years. And in that moment, it's like I had to fight with myself, and I broke a lot of myself open, and it hurt really, really bad. But I said yes, and I got up on that stage. And after not participating for the whole time, I started talking, and the guy that was sitting there was like, what is that? And he sat down and was like focused in. And what I talked about was this vibrant education concept about how we as entrepreneurs, we do all of this stuff for our family, but in the process, we lose our family because we didn't talk about our financial struggles when we were going through them, because it's like we didn't want our kids to know that. They were at school, and then we would have those conversations. And we didn't talk about the struggle because we didn't want them to have to feel that with us. And so then when I hurt myself and I reached out for my kids, they didn't see what we had done. And he started hanging out. He married a woman who was of a different
go back to Montana.
So in Montana, I talked about the school, and he's like, do you really have that? Because I talked about how I did personal development. I did I did personal development. I did business development. I did all of this education, all of this stuff for my family, but because that was supposed to be at the end. And then when I never got to the end, so we thought, let's put family development and education development, personal in right at the beginning. So instead of trying to get your family back after spending hours and weeks away from them, bring them home, make them part of that. The education that they're going to get watching you struggle and build a business, persevere for them, have them start somehow participating as they want, and be that role model. It's like that is the education that family needs, that's going to hold the family together. And as an entrepreneur, you're doing this for your family. So start with them. Will it be harder? Maybe. Will it be different? Yes. But instead of trying to wait till the end to fix it, start fixing it now and grow with them.
So Vibrant Family Education was actually his idea.
I love that. I love that. So, well, first, I just want to acknowledge and thank you for your vulnerability here, because, and I can hear and I can relate to, Christina saying, go back to Montana, because it is hard to share our story without oversharing or without hurting other people. Yeah. And that is something that I just want to acknowledge that, because that takes a lot to whether 2 people listen to this episode or 2 million, that takes a lot to just speak it out loud. And I have found myself in the same situation as you, where there are parts of my story that maybe I shouldn't share because they would hurt other people, but they hurt me at the time that they happen. And so it is my story and it is my truth. But I love that you had this idea. And I also have to relate to, if you see me at a conference, you're probably going to see me in the back corner, not talking to anyone, because not that I don't want to, but I am too much for most people. So I'm either going to capitalize the whole room, or I'm going to completely isolate myself so that I don't capitalize the whole room. And that's just because I have questions. I got a question about that. I keep interrupting. So I relate to your story of not wanting to be in the role play and things like that. But I'm so glad that you did get up there and you did share.
After so many years of doing that, we decided every time we go VIP and we sit as close to the front as possible, because then if we have questions, you get to talk to the people backstage and then plow. And so
you don't have to interrupt as much.
And so if you're going to go VIP. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a concert, if it's a speech.
I think I know who or where you were. Just hearing some of this. I'll have to. Are you willing to share? What conference was this?
Actually, it was a local. It was a local event. The Montana was just a little itty bitty local event.
Was it? Yeah. Okay.
There was only about 7 of us there that were there for that. Yeah, he had a business, and then he'd kind of let it go for other reasons. And now he was restarting it, and I was at his launch party. And it's really funny because after coming in and saying I'm done with it, at the end of it, we hired him as a coach, and he held our vision for a year.
He helped us get going.
So without him and hiring him as a coach, we wouldn't be doing this.
I was recently at a conference in Orlando, a workshop in Orlando, a 3-day business workshop. And he said, go VP every single time. And so that's where, and it was an amazing workshop. So loved it. But how did this lead to Vibrant Education? So you're in Montana, you get up there, you share, you're sharing your vision here.
I almost have to give a little more backstory, because about 4 months before I went to Mexico for a treatment, a medicine treatment, and that turned my life. So 3 or 4 months before I went there, I was dead. I mean, I was a walking corpse, and it was not pleasant. So coming out of that, and I called my wife from Montana and was like, I'm going to get you out of school. You have to trust me. And we're actually going to have to break into our retirement account to buy this coach for a year, because I have hope now. And so she listened to me, and she signed her resignation for her job because she had 2 weeks to do it. And we started this journey.
Yeah.
And so
we had
even after I lost everything and messed up, and just, she was still willing to trust me and come along, because this vision was so powerful.
And I relate to that.
Yeah. All the way through my teaching career, we had talked about what would a perfect school look like? What would something look like that would really, really help families? And part of that planning and everything was very much brick and mortar. But of course, that was before our pandemic, where things really changed to like online. And then the 2 years of me being online really opened that vision up some more, right? So part of the thing that he was told was that tell them about the school and the speech, right?
And I said, you took that away from me when you hurt my head, because we've been talking about it for years. And he's like, it's not yours anymore. This is for the parents now. You have to give this to the parents. And that's how this was born. So we became coaching the parents, because the best school is your house, is your life. Or if you're traveling, it's
wherever you
when
are.
you were at that conference in VIP, if your kid was sitting next to you, what kind of socialization skills are they getting? Big myth number one: my kids are going to be weird and not socialized
if I
homeschool my kids. Yes. Is that one of yours? My kids won't be socialized properly?
No.
You take them into that group?
No, I don't know that I want my kids socializing with everyone to be with.
Gosh, is that correct?
I want them to learn proper socialization. But you're right. That is one of those factors that, I know Christina and I talked about this a little bit before, but I think that my son Caden on the spectrum would absolutely thrive in that type of in a homeschool type of setting. Yeah. My daughter probably would. Like, there's days where somebody said something on the playground and she's like, oh my God, I want to be homeschooled. But she likes the idea of being around other people, but there's groups, and there's, I know several people that I know that homeschool that they take one day at this person's house or one day at this person's house. And there's, ideas for that. But I love that you say that, because my kids actually missed an entire week of school last week because I had a TEDx in Missouri, and there was absolutely no way I was standing on that red dot without my kids being in the audience to see me.
Exactly.
And so they came along for the entire process, and it was so much more than them just watching me on stage. It was them seeing something that's been on my vision board come true, and the work that came before that, right? The late nights in my office practicing, and mom talking to herself when I was rehearsing to myself while I'm scrubbing the toilet or whatever. Like, they're finally like, oh, this all makes sense. And then my entire talk was about, changing and redefining success for neurodivergent people in entrepreneurship and in corporate and in life in general. And so my daughter has said multiple times, hearing me film this podcast or even on stage, when she would hear me use the word ADHD, she's like, Mom, that's me. I have ADHD too. And so I 100% wholeheartedly agree. There is so much more in life experience than in the classroom.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where we come in, like, we redefine the word education. Most of the time when you say the word education, people are actually thinking academics.
Yeah.
When we redefine education, it's the whole child. Physical, mental, spiritual.
So let's elaborate. Yeah, elaborate on that for me, because that is something where I know people who were incredibly book smart, could memorize anything, ace a test, have absolutely no socialization, struggle when they get to adulthood because they don't know how to interview, they don't know how to do a job, they can't balance a checkbook. And then I know people that are the flip side, couldn't pass a test if you wanted, scrappy as all get out, but are making it and have done better. I mean, look at the zero.
Most successful entrepreneurs and business owners haven't graduated from high school or college. They're like, this ain't working for me. I need to go live. And by the time it's crazy. Yeah. And so it's like, I was super smart, graduated college. I failed a lot of businesses because until I started working, until I started getting them right. And then I hurt my head. And
so explain to me how you guys redefine education, because I heard the 3 words there, but elaborate a little bit on that and what that looks like.
So it really goes back to, especially if you're homeschooling, making sure that you're hitting all of those. So you are giving them the academics they need. They can read, they can write, they can do math, right? But then along with that, you're also doing all of the emotional work. You're helping them know how to regulate, how to interact with other people. What part of that is socialization, right? Is because now not only are you giving them opportunities with their own peer group, like they would in traditional school, like you said, if you're taking them to the TEDx talk, you're taking them to the conferences, you're specifically putting them in music classes that maybe are multi-age that meet their needs, they're learning so much more about themselves and how to work with the people around them.
Because they're learning in a cooperative environment.
Yeah.
If they really like music and they go to music class at school, there might be 3 or 4 kids that are paying attention really well, and some that are just trying to get by, and a bunch in the back that are goofing around and poking, and they're all the same age and they're going to be joking. What kind of music is that child really getting? You take them after school to a class with different age groups, they're all wanting to be there. Some of them are probably forced by their parents, but still they mostly want to be there, and they're working cooperatively towards a common goal, working all ages. The older ones, they're going to see the older ones obviously helping the younger ones, just because the instructor can only help so many. And they'll see all ages interacting. That kind of cooperative social interaction is so much more important than they need to be with kids of their own age, told to sit down and be quiet, sit in rows until the 5 or 10 minutes where they can be with all the kids of all the ages in this chaotic hallway where they're bouncing off of each other. They don't know how to communicate,
Right.
where the most trauma in your life has ever happened in high school.
For lots of people.
And so that's the socialization that is kind of get in school. The best socialization in school actually comes from sports teams, because they actually work cooperatively within themselves.
Yeah.
But still outside of that, it doesn't work so well.
Right.
So blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And if you jump back in there to the classes and things, especially with neurodivergent or autistic or ADHD, if you're homeschooling or you're taking a more active role in your child's education, you put them in those classes at the time of day that's best for them.
That's best for you as well.
And best for you as well.
Yeah.
Especially as an entrepreneur, right? So if you know they're a morning kiddo, awesome. You take them to those things that challenge them a little bit more when they're active and ready.
Yeah.
If they're a slow roller, you do it in the afternoon or the evening. So that goes actually to myth number 2 that we talk about a lot with homeschooling, is that I don't have enough time. Well, if you actually look at how you do it, that you're not stuck to the 8 to 4 time of a regular school, and you also have all year, there's no summer break, you can choose when breaks happen, you can get so much more learning and education done than most people think even possible.
So depending on your age group, the time of academics per day is somewhere between half an hour to 3 hours, depending on your ages. Other than that, for kids, like for 1st through 3rd grade, maybe getting up to an hour, but then playing is so much more important to their brain development and future reading abilities through playing than they do through the actual academics. So how much time do you spend getting your kids ready? Busing everywhere is pretty much gone. So how much time does it take you to drive your kids to school? How long do you have to wait in line after school? What does that do on your entrepreneurial schedule to have those specific times each day taken out of your ability to work from home? Now, that is probably more than 3 or 4 hours. And then there's the teachers' conferences. Okay, so now you take that out. Now your kids wake up when they feel it, can wake up naturally. You have times where their school work is required because that's the best time of the day for them. They play, they learn, they start cooking with you. They start cleaning with you. You teach them how at first. It's a little more upfront work, but once they start getting the concepts and understanding, then there's less time you spend cleaning because they're helping you. There's less time you spend cooking because they're involved. And you spend this quality time with your family that you're wanting to get rich to have. But instead of doing it from the start again.
I love it.
And so the hours that you intentionally wreck out of your day for school, it's like that can be this time where you bond with your children and then put in a workspace here. The time for your children's work can be, I need to do this meeting. It's like, so we're all going to sit here. You're going to do your homework. I'm going to do my work. So the kind of learning opportunities that come through you not having enough time I was like,
Yeah.
that's absolutely silly. What does
So,
that mean?
Phil, tell me a little bit about, I mentioned, one of my children has an IEP.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, ideally the school makes accommodations to the level that they can. We live in an area where providers are few and far between. I don't think there's enough anywhere in any area. They got wait lists 6 to 18 months for certain therapies around here. So I know the school's having trouble finding people. But what does that look like, Christina, for or Herb, of course, but like a transition from, if you had a special needs child like I do or you do, transitioning away from that IEP can be kind of scary. And an idea of, okay, maybe I could do exactly what you were modeling with my daughter, but my son who might need a little. Now, I think it would be perfect for him because, like you said, there's certain times a day he's on fire, and then there's certain times a day where he's ready to burn it on fire. Like it's like one or the other, He's either overstimulated or he's regulated. He's doing good. I think having less seated time and more, he can walk around and do homework or walking around and do classwork would be beneficial for him. I know he would love online school. I think my only fear of that is he does think anything on a computer is a video game. So he is, right now we're doing paper and pencil tests while the rest of the class is doing computer tasks because Caden gets on there and he's like, I gotta win, I gotta be the first to finish. And I'm like, that's not how it goes. So this transition of this, I have almost this fear of it.
Yeah.
And it's not him, it's me. But what would you recommend for a parent in my situation where it's like, I'm a little scared to take that on?
And that's where you have to kind of like, what we say is like, buck up and just kind of do it, right? But
that's what I needed to hear right there.
But part of it is that you're doing the right thing right now. You're talking about it, you're thinking about it, you're kind of structuring and planning and getting information. That's always the first step, right? And then also, I'm not trying to sell our services here, but finding that coach or finding that somebody who can give you the accountability, the confidence, and the next step kind of forward, right? So I want to tell you a little story about one of the families that I've been working with for 2 years now, right? And the child wasn't in public school, but mom knew that public school wasn't going to work for him. So she just didn't even put him there. So when she started talking to me, she's like, but Christina, I already have this tutoring session set up because she was a very proactive parent. I already have this speech therapy set up through my doctor's office. I already have this OT therapy set. I'm like, awesome. Guess what? That becomes part of his schooling.
Right.
And like you said, you have less providers. Well, think about when those providers are trying to get kids in after school.
Right.
Guess what you get to shift to now? Whatever time of the day they have open or whatever time of the day works better for you and your child.
Yeah. And I know you and I talked about this when we connected. I actually held Caden out of kindergarten. Kindergarten's not required in the state of Mississippi. And so he was already learning numbers and letters and basic sight words in ABA. And so I held him out and said, let's give him an extra year. He'll be a year behind in school, but at least he will have gotten what he needed. We need to work more on his behaviors and his social setting so that he can thrive in school. And so we did that. And then when his sister, who's 20 months younger than him, but a year behind in school, started kindergarten, he wanted to start with her. And so now they're in the same grade, not the same class. That would be a bad idea. But so we did that. And like you're saying, it was beneficial because we were available. At the time, we weren't available any time of the day because I was in corporate. But we could be available for those 10 o'clock appointments that are open, those 11 o'clock appointments that are open, cancellations. Whereas now that is something that we have wanted to do some more ABA therapy during like breaks, holiday breaks. A lot of times they won't take you on as a client for 2 hours a week because you're taking a spot for someone who might become a full-time client. And so there's different struggles like that where you do have the flexibility, and I can see where that would be super beneficial.
The other thing I really want to put in here as well, though, because I've also worked with a family that their child would blow out at certain times during the day of school. And so what the family told the school was, instead of him having issues at school and having us have to come get him or whatever. We're just going to take him out during this time. And then they scheduled a tutor session for him during that time. So he was kind of getting the best of both worlds. He was getting what he needed at school, but on those really hard times or those subjects where he wasn't learning at grade level, they pulled him out and went to a tutoring session or a therapy session or something instead. So you can kind of balance and kind of tiptoe in that way.
That would depend upon state and school district too, right?
Right.
Because
but remember, parents have the right to take their child to appointments and stuff without consequences. So don't let them tell you, oh, try to keep them in school.
Right.
No,
Right.
what's best for your kid.
Well, and if they have an IEP as well, and the school's not providing the service that's needed, you know, there's a lot of repercussions there. We won't get into ID law too much.
No.
But I love that. So we talked a little bit about the myths, and obviously the fear that your child won't be, you know, socially on par. We've got the myth of not having enough time, right?
Yep.
So what's the third myth?
Is I'm not good enough to be a teacher. So a great one is like, I was terrible in math at school. How can I teach my kid math? Next question after that should be, it's like, you now have an exact experience of the school system letting you down because it wasn't able to teach you math. Yeah. Why do you think the school system is going to be better? It's like they let you down.
It's a mental game. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and here's another really interesting thing is once you do, if it's like, I'm not good at math. Okay. You start teaching your kids the fundamentals and it's like, oh, hey, I missed that piece. And suddenly math starts making sense for you. Yeah. You start teaching reading to your children, or you don't necessarily start teaching them reading if you aren't good at it. You go through an online program, but you're there with them at that age. You're there with them hearing it. And maybe something pops in for you and fills in something for you. Now, that's not necessarily like guaranteed or the case, but by educating your children, another really interesting thing is you start educating to what your children wants to learn about. One of our kids who's on the spectrum liked tractors, couldn't get him to do anything. Okay, so look, here's a book about reading about tractors. So he wanted to read. So to get all of these books, he pulled reading to him. It's like, look, here's all this math that you can do around tractors. And he wanted to understand that. So he started pulling in the learning for math because he wanted to find out in his interests. So by you being his parent and you understanding his interests, you can tailor his academics around his interests in ways that are subtle, and you don't have to do all of this stuff at once. You know, we're talking about a lot of stuff.
Don't get overwhelmed.
Don't get overwhelmed. You start really simple by being there and understanding, and we can hold all of these steps for you. And then as you was like, oh, I'm here at this point, I'm feeling really comfortable, what else can I do? And we come as like, hey, this, or you say, oh, this isn't working really well. It's like, great, well, let's pivot. We've had people who've pulled their kids out of school for a year and a half, and then due to circumstances needed to put them in. When their kids got back to school, they did better because they asked better questions and pulled the information to them. So even if it's just for a little while and change the experience, it's not set in stone. If you pull your kids out and it doesn't work for you, and you hire a coach and you can't work it all out and you need to put them back,
it's okay.
It's okay. It's just a pivot. And then there are people who can help you work within the system to get more for your children. So as a teacher for 27 years, it's like, oh, this is what's going on at the school. It's like, okay, this is what you say. This is who you need to talk to. These are the letters you write, and then you'll get the help for your children. Yeah. So we can work within the system or help you tailor it individually. If you have 3 kids, you have 3 learning styles.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And we actually have in Mississippi, which I have not looked at it in a few years to see if it's still, if it exists, if it's on a waiting list, what that looks like. But we actually have what's called an ESA account. I don't know if you know, other states have that. Now it is for a child with an IEP. They have to have an IEP on file, but basically it takes the amount of money the school would get from the state to provide services for your child, and you on a reimbursement basis can take that money and go find the services for your child. And so I know one concern of a parent that I spoke to with my nonprofit recently was the cost of that child getting speech and OT and all of that elsewhere. And now the child, if they have a diagnosis, does have the ability to get the Medicaid waiver here in our state where all those services should be covered. The problem is the waiting list to get that approved is forever, and they've been on it forever. So they're in this middle ground. Is that something that you guys also help parents with, of like funding options? Because if I was to enroll a child in online school, that's usually there's going to be a cost associated with that. Is that something that you guys coach on?
I haven't explored that enough. What I do know is that there are like 24 states out of the 50 now who do have special funding and stuff for like homeschool or using their funds for other alternative education. You just have to find that list. And then alongside of that, of course, you're using your health insurance. So hopefully you have health insurance that will also help cover some of those therapies and stuff. So you're not stuck with the school district. Yeah. You can find them and get them through those other services. So
but even like a neurotypical child, if I was to enroll a neurotypical child, there's probably some costs associated in online schools and things like that. Is that something that you guys explore in general?
Yeah, exactly. So when a parent comes and works with us, we start talking about, is an online school the best option for you? What are the costs, et cetera? I can show them some of those. Is it okay to just, basically do the free YouTube university kind of thing? And,
is that an option?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, you get to set your curriculum.
You get to set curriculum. So you do what you
we have a couple of people who've been on our podcast who do unschooling, which they don't do any curriculum at all. And over the years, so they would read to their kids, they would watch documentaries, and the stuff that her kids learned, and they're super successful in college now, is crazy. I couldn't have done that.
But for some
people that works.
And especially if they want to travel, because think about this, if you're traveling, you're learning more by being in the different places than actual. You get the basics going, the reading, writing, math, but then you explore the world. And
now taking your kids out of school is the last unhindered right American has, because there's nothing that says that you just want to take your kids out of school. You can. Some states you have to file some paperwork. Some states you still have to do testing. So in the strictest of states, you do have to report on it. But there are whole programs out there that say, "Oh, you're cooking, you're doing this lesson, you're taking them to this. There's this lesson." So
you're covering these different subjects.
You just write the stuff tracking. You just track what you do throughout the day and say that this is what my child is learning, and that's good enough for every state. And some states don't have any kind of requirements at all.
That was going to be one of my next questions, was the state testing. So I have both of my youngest are in 3rd grade right now, and there is a Mississippi 3rd grade required state test for you to go to 4th grade.
Yeah.
And it's daunting for these kids because they're told, not using fear tactics, but the teachers expressed to them in the beginning, like, hey, if you don't get past this
test, you have to know this stuff. It's on this page. We covered it on this day, and then this page on this day. So they're teaching to that test.
Yeah.
Are your kids learning anything?
Right.
So yes, if your kids fail that test, it really doesn't matter.
In most states, when they have that testing requirement, all that's required is to show progress. So as long as they take the test and they show progress from the last time they took the test, they pass as a homeschool student, where it might be a little bit different for the actual public school students, but that's generally how it works. So don't let those tests scare you.
Don't let those tests scare you.
Don't let them scare you. Especially those with IEPs, because you can opt them out most of the time because it's not an appropriate setting and test for them in the first place.
And the education your kids will be getting at home and what you will see them learning is so much more important than any score on that test. And you will come to understand it. And it's like those tests will become meaningless to you.
Yeah. So All right. You just triggered my brain to ask another question, Christina. So you said most of the time you can opt them out because it's not appropriate setting. So maybe I'm just talking strategy here. But if I was like, okay, we're going to give this a shot, right? Because that's all you can do. You can try. You can get a coach, you can get a mentor to walk you through it, accountability. If it doesn't work, they can go back to school, or if they're not happy, they could go back to school. Like it's not a life or death end all be all situation that you have to choose most of the time.
Yeah.
But IEPs expire every 3 years. And so if you were going to move your child, would you recommend getting that re-eval so that you'd have a full 3-year trial? Or what happens to the IEP if you choose to pull them from the school? Is it still, I've never looked into this, so I'm curious. Like if, let's say Mississippi, don't know the rules, got to look those up. But let's say Mississippi's like, your kid still has to take this test, even if they're homeschooling. Does that IEP still follow them as now a homeschool child? Yes. Okay.
Yes,
and would you get it up to date before, or does the school system still have to do the evaluation even if they're a homeschool child?
That's a little bit of nuance that we have to look
We have
into
to look for state,
with different states, but most public schools are required for special needs kids, for IEP kids, to give them services even though they're not part of the school. Now it's going to be really tough because their schedule is already full with all the kids in the school and things like that. So a lot of homeschool parents just say, nah, I'll take care of it on my own. But it's there if you need it or really want it.
Yeah.
If you were going to jump out now, and I would almost say get that re-eval done and get it solid for the 3 years, kind of like you said, just so you have it.
Yeah, it was pre-done, but for the parents listening, for sure.
Right. Yeah. But that way, yeah, exactly. That way it's in your back pocket in case you need it. Now, I know in Oregon, the IEP doesn't necessarily follow, but when you go to homeschooling, they have a personal education plan for those kiddos who are struggling and having special challenges. So you just have to look into how to word that and how to get that also kind of set up. But it's very doable and it's very helpful along the way. But, like I was talking about the one family that I helped them not even put their kiddo in school. Mom is just so resourceful. And that's what I really want to encourage parents. You are resourceful. And she has already taken care of it with the tutoring, with the speech therapy, et cetera, et cetera. She's not even worried about that kind of IEP plan because she knows what works for her child, what the child really needs. And because she can see the development day by day and the progress day by day, she's like, okay, I've got this handle. I don't need government looking over my shoulder because I know what's best for my kiddo. And that's one of the biggest things I say to parents. Please follow your gut and your intuition. You know if that school is not working for your child. You know if that teacher is not working for your child, especially if you've been paying attention. As long as the kid isn't pushing all the teacher's buttons, right? Know if it's not a good fit kind of
and
thing.
If you go in and sit in a school system, how much of what they're teaching your children is actually useful and helpful for everyday life and for skills? How many high school seniors right now graduate and can't read and can't hold a job and can't balance a checkbook or shopping? How many kids get out of school and have to, or college, and get married and it's like they've never used their oven or stove, they don't know how, and they're just crushed. So it's like, what can they learn at school? What is more valuable than being able to take care of a house and raise a family? What really are you teaching your kids in school that is so much more important than learning how to be in a household full of people and how to make that work?
Which jumps to the third one I didn't get to, was spirituality. What do you want your kids? And spirituality isn't just religion. It's the being human and being connected with all those people around you. So how much do you get to impart that with your kids as well?
And part of that, I'm going to throw in diet, is you bring your kids home, and if you actually clean up your diet and have your kids eating healthy, they're going to learn better. The food at schools is awful. They sugar them up. They have them sit down. The learning styles aren't appropriate. So if you clean up your kids' diet, you get them eating healthy, you get them appreciating the taste of clean food, then you have something that can go forward throughout their life that is going to consistently help them be better.
I love that. I love that. And that you're right. I mean, my kids, my son won't eat anything. He has a diet of about 5 things, and they're all some form of pizza. Hot Pockets. I know. Don't judge, but look, we have
one food. Pizza would probably be my choice.
Every therapy imaginable other than food therapy, because at this point I am like, let him live his best pizza life. Like, he goes to enough therapy, works, on speech and OT and behaviors and music lessons and all these things. Like, the last thing I want to do right now is take away his Hot Pockets. So yes, that is about all that child eats. But my daughter, who's not quite as picky, every day is like, ew, I don't want that, until she'll pack a lunch, or, okay, I can do the chicken nuggets. Like, I will eat that today, but I love that.
Family of the child of this family. The mom watched our podcast around food once, and the nutritionist was talking about how you let children play with the food. They don't have to eat it, but she started like, here, come play with the food. And he played with the food for a while. And then after a while, part of playing with it is like, well, I wonder what it tastes like. And so it wasn't, here, come eat this. It was, play with this. And
Smell
eventually,
see it.
and so having them at home and letting them play with the food, whether they eat it or not, and being non-judgmental, can open up your child's culinary vocabulary.
Yeah, I love that. And Caden's got the most heightened sense of smell. We believe smell is the reason he does not eat certain things.
Yeah.
And he will, if he walks in, we walked into a restaurant last week in Missouri, and I guess they cooked, we thought it was cabbage, but I guess they had Brussels sprouts on their special, and he vomited right there.
Oh no, poor guy.
Like, the smell. And so I'm like, so I can imagine. I've never heard that he's vomited in the kitchen, in the cafeteria at school, but he must be doing his best not to. But you're right. I mean, just the experience of at least being exposed to new things and different things opens them up to being willing to try it. So I love this. And I know that you guys have a podcast that people can plug into, right? Bringing education home. We'll make sure that's in the show notes. But I've heard so many good things today that I know that you guys have episodes on. I definitely want to encourage other people to plug into, and part of me wanting to have this episode was really just to have that conversation of, I know in the beginning, I had this old school mindset of what homeschool looks like, right? And that's just not what it looks like anymore. Yeah. I mean, there are people that are doing hybrid versions, unschooling, which I've seen a couple TikToks around. I'm going to have to go listen to that episode now that you talked about. I know parents that are homeschooling and working a 9 to 5 because they do it on weekends and in afternoons, because they
really quickly on micro schools coming up very shortly. And that's a really good episode too. So
that's exciting. I mean, there's so many different options now. There are online schools there where the teacher's actually online. There's so many options for parents. And, I always say, and I said this at the beginning of the episode, that if your house isn't in order, your business can't be in order. There's just no way. I cannot focus on my business if I'm constantly getting interrupted by calls from the school, or my kids getting off the bus, having a terrible day. And then the hours of homework that happen after they've already been at school for hours. And all of those things are stressors that I know most of my audience is entrepreneurs, but that affect my business, and they're obviously affecting my kids. And so opening the conversation for them to have a place or people to come through like Vibrant Family Education to have that conversation with what the options are, a resource to plug into, is definitely valuable for us. So I appreciate you guys being here. Tell me a little bit about where they can find you. Obviously the podcast will link that. How can they connect with you? What resources can you plug people into?
So the best place to go is just our website, vibrantfamilyeducation.com. Of course, that shows you events that are happening, where we're speaking, where we're talking, different podcasts, things like that, as well as there's some courses there to kind of get you started. And then, of course, my signature mentorship program, 8 weeks of getting all of this kind of worked out, talked out, etc. So vibrantfamilyeducation.com. Everything's there. Connection, a call like this, 30 minutes to chit chat and kind of ask a few questions is all right there.
Do you recommend people contact you? Is that 8-week course set up to get kind of the foundation ready to homeschool? Is it a good idea to do? Okay. Because I told my husband when we had this conversation a few weeks ago, I was like, I think the summer is the best trial run. If we like trial run it during the summer.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you pulled your kids out of school, it's like, hey, we're going to trial run homeschooling for this time off. And if it doesn't work, we're going to put you back in school. I don't think your kids are going to like that.
They're not going to like that.
No.
Just from that point of view, hey, we're going to trial run this school for your summer vacation and you better do good or we're putting you back in school. No.
I meant more or less like setting up the area. Where is school going to be? I know my kids. Unschooling sounds awesome, but I thrive with structure. I thrive with routine, even though I have severe ADHD. And
this is one of these things that I actually talk about a lot is kids need structure. And the way I explain it, it's like a tomato cage. If you plant like a cherry tomato or a tomato, it's just going to run all over the place and your fruit won't be very good. But if you put a cage around it and you start it growing up and it's like, oh, that branch isn't going anywhere. That behavior isn't going anywhere. I'm going to stop that behavior. I'm going to stop that branch. But then you put it around this cage. Well, there are going to be branches that kind of come out around the cage and grow up and produce awesome fruit. So that cage isn't to keep it contained. It's to give it support to grow up around. So yes, it is absolutely critical for children to have a structure. Even if it's unschooling, there needs to be a structure in the household and around the family because that structure gives children confidence to step outside of it. They're going to challenge it in the 2 to 7 year range because they're supposed to. That's how their brains work, psychology. But that structure gives them also a safety net. So if they dump off, it gives you time to catch it and grab that vine if you want it and put it back in place. So structure is really, really great for children. And we talk about that. So we also talk about family values. Are your values, are your actions? It was like everybody says, oh yeah, I'm doing this for my family. My family comes first. And it's like, but then let's look at your actions. Your family is about 17 in your critical actions. It's like, so is family really the most important thing or all? So it's like, we just help people like, look at that, consider that, and diet and what are you doing for your health? So it's not, and all of this is also around your children's education because mentorship, what are they seeing you doing? Are they seeing you living the life that you want for them? And so, you know, it's little steps, you're a business person. You've gone to these things, you've left these events like excited. I'm going to do all of this. And within a week, it's like, what was that? How did I do that? How do I feel? We help hold that for you so that you can take the little steps and keep that excitement. It's like, oh, I'm ready for more. And it's like, okay, slow down, take steps. See, like she keeps doing to me, slow down, take this step.
Can you see? I love that so much though. And I mean, this is again, a conversation we've had multiple times in my household. I know my audience has regularly, you know, now that it feels like a possibility, if they've left their job, they're now working from home. I'm here all day. Could my kids be here all day? It feels like an opportunity for them. And so there is the 3 myths that we talked about today, but a lot of that's what's holding them back. And it might even be something else. So I definitely encourage everyone to reach out to Christina and Herb at Vibrant Family Education and like, just have the conversation of like, hey, what do you have that could help me? Because if you're listening to my podcast, you know, I believe in mentorship. I tell people don't hire a mentor that doesn't have a mentor, period. The end. I mean, I believe in mentorship. You've had mentors, you shared your journey, earlier about the fear of hiring a mentor, but I'm sure that exponentially changed everything for you guys and taking that risk, which I appreciate you sharing, because I did the same. I quit my job. I had no plan. Don't know how much of my story you guys know, but I had to turn down these therapy options that were happening at 10 and 11 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, I couldn't do that at my job, right? This was before Caden was school age, and I had enough. And I've been watching all these women on TikTok talking about how much money they were making online. And I'm like, I don't know what they're doing, but I'm going to do it too. I quit. And so I put in my 2 weeks for my son's options. And long story short, I hadn't been at the company long enough to leave my 401k there. So wasn't that much, but I cashed it. I took it. And I was originally going to let it be our nest egg in case this whole business thing didn't work out. And then I hired a mentor with it, almost all of it. And my husband's like, what are you doing? I was like, just trust me. I don't really know what I'm doing.
I'm burning the boats. I'm burning the boats. That's what they call it.
I mean, I did.
No way back now. It's like, I have to do this.
Exactly. And it was the best risk I ever took. And, I am here every day because even though my kids are still in school, there's IEP meetings, there's after school therapies, there is, all of these field trips and things that I get to go on. But I just still feel this pull of,
but in those,
so much more.
You get to participate. Yes. And you get to watch other people decide what your children do during that time. You're not taking them to the museum. You're going to the museum, and usually they put you with other people's children so that they behave. And it's like,
I just still feel cool that they could be so much more cultured and in the know. And so having the conversation, opening just the door today to have the conversation about options, I love it. So thank you guys for being with me. We will make sure that your information is in the show notes for them to plug in. Obviously your podcast as well, because I want to hear more about the unschooling. And then of course, even, just plugging in weekly, because even if you haven't taken that leap yet to homeschool your kids or do an alternative, hearing other people's stories can inspire you, because there's got to be someone on your podcast that their story sounds like mine or will be in the future. And so sometimes it's really just hearing other people's stories and experiences to make you brave enough to take your own.
An entrepreneur mother of 8 is also going to be on our podcast. Hers is going to be released in the next month or two as well.
Yeah.
8. So her business is around helping people have children because her doctors told her she never would. And so she changed her mindset that I'm going to have children. And then she wasn't able to stop. So she helps people teach. And then, but she's like, if you want to stop having kids, it's like, that's not me.
Hey, I will listen to that, but God is my witness. My kids will be really rich if I have any more children. I'm just going to say that, but I will have to listen to that because again, same thing, right? I can relate to so many things you guys are saying. I feel like I've lived 100 lives in 35 years or however old I am these days, but fertility, Caden's a fertility baby, 5.5 years of fertility treatment, was told it probably wasn't going to happen. We were going to have to look for alternatives. Finally find a doctor that helped me figure it out for him, change my mindset. Like you said, when I finally gave up, I was blessed. And then here comes his sister for free 99, 20 months later. So, it's like, wow. But then I stopped it. I did stop it. Because I was like,
God doesn't meet you in the depths of your suffering. He meets you in the depths of your surrender.
Exactly. And everything's a blessing in disguise. There was a lot that happened in that 5.5 years of infertility that I would not have wanted to have a baby in the mix of the situation. A lot of loss, a lot of struggles like you shared earlier. And I wouldn't have wanted a baby in the middle of that. And at the time, that's what I thought I would have. But looking back, I'm like, no, I knew exactly. I knew and he knew, and it was a blessing in disguise. So, oh my gosh, so much value. I could probably sit here and talk to you guys for another 2 hours, but my kids are beating down the door because they get out of school early on Wednesdays. And they're like, well, what is mom doing in there? I appreciate you so much. I'm going to plug into the podcast. I challenge everyone else to plug into the podcast. Is there anything else that you would like to just share or end with that you feel would be valuable to entrepreneurs listening to this?
The most important thing is really be aware that you are your child's first best teacher. You teach them how to talk, you teach them how to walk, you're there with them, you know so much about them. Don't let someone else tell you something different. Yes, you need coaching. Yes, you need help. You need somebody to fill in those parts that you don't understand, but don't give up your right as a parent to help guide your child and really give them the whole education that they really, really need.
I love that.
My kind of going away, I get one too, because my
Yeah.
kind of going away is your kids should be there for the rest of your life. It's like this business that might be, that you think might be forever, it might go away.
Yeah.
Your friends might go away, your job might go away, but they're going to be your children for the rest of your life. And if you want them to be in your life, make them a priority now so that they will want to be so that you can be a priority for them later. So build that relationship, build that family. It's like that's what we're missing. It's like how much more money do you need? How much is going to make up for that? Your family, your kids right now is the most important job you are ever going to do.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. And it's so accurate, because there is a sense of guilt that comes sometimes when I've gone to an event and been like, oh, the kids, they can't miss any more school, or they can't, and so that hits deep, and that's so relatable, 100%. So I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Well, with that being said, you guys, I am so glad we opened this conversation. I, again, challenge you to listen to their podcast. I'll put that in the show notes. I'll put website in the show notes. Connect with them. Just have the conversation. I get that it can be scary. We talk about a lot of scary things on here, okay? Nothing is scarier than building a business. Your kids shouldn't be scary. It shouldn't be a scary situation, because there's mentorship, and these guys can guide you through how to make the transition, what that looks like, what fits best. I'm sure you help people build schedules, help people find the best options, what is happening in their state, what those requirements are. There's a lot of nuances to it, but if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, you've done hard work before, and this should be easy. This should be someone guiding you on how to make the best build that relationship with your child. So I challenge you to plug in. Thank you guys so much for being here with me. And until next time, make it simple, make it social, make it awesome. Bye, everyone.